Hello, hello, and welcome. Oh my goodness, welcome to Move Black, Black communities and land ownership as a means to economic excellence. Right now, what we are doing is saying hello, right? Can you say hello? Yes, Tammy, hi, it's good to see you. Who else is here? Just give me a wave. Hello, glad you can be here. Good. Also in the chat, tell me where you are from, where you are coming to us from this evening. Yes, it's good to see you, Krama. Yes, Detroit, excellent. I am coming from the Austin, Texas area. I am your host, Shannon Stott. Maryland, Atlanta. Also, one more thing I want to know, who's been here before and who is here for the first time? Have you been here on this particular platform before? Hi, first time, Rhonda, excellent, welcome. Yes, first timers, excellent. I'm so glad that you are here, first time here. This is beautiful. We are, yes, the Pieces Collective events have been amazing, Sophia, you're absolutely right. Yes, great, welcome from Oklahoma, good. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that everyone is here. You all, we are here for such an amazing event. I'm really excited myself to be hosting and to be facilitating this panel. I am not going to be giving you the information. I am definitely going to be asking the questions. I want to let you know that there are a few questions that are written and precast, but really we are here to hear what the panelists have to say and the questions that you have to ask. So I'm asking you now, just to give it a try, if you look up, you'll see in the right-hand side of your screen a chat, a participant, and a Q&A tab. So if you can look, right now the chat is highlighted in green, but if you go to the Q&A tab and type in a question, go ahead and try all of that. Try to click on the Q&A and type in a question that you might have, that you have now, that you might have later. Type in a question and put it up there, and we'll be able to see it there. And if you see a question that somebody else has asked, you can vote on the question that you want to hear. So make sure to put your questions in that Q&A. Excellent. Test, people are testing. Looking forward to growing together. Test, when is groundbreaking? Excellent. These are great questions. So keep asking those questions as you are listening to the panelists. You will definitely have more and more questions, and ask them right here in the Q&A, and you can always vote on the question that you want to hear loud and clear. So welcome to Move Black, a discussion about Black communities and land ownership as a means to economic power. This workshop is brought to you by the Pieces Collective. The Pieces Collective is a nonprofit organization using art, creativity, and service to help build thriving communities. The workshop Move Black is a part of that service. The Pieces Collective reminds us that we come from a community with a history of making things with our hands. The hands that create physical goods are the same hands that bring people together, like we are doing right now, to build homes and create neighborhoods that strengthen communities. Arkee Hodges is a historian, educator, entrepreneur, and visionary leader. He is the founder and president of the Black Achievement Fund, and also the founder and president of Education for Life Academy, an online African history curriculum that begins the origins of humanity in Africa 200,000 years ago, not slavery. Mr. Hodges received a BA in African American Studies from the University of Virginia and an MPS in Africana Studies from Cornell University. If you can, please welcome Arkee Hodges to the screen. Put your hands together in the chat while I continue to announce our wonderful panelists. Welcome, Arkee. We also have Ashley Scott tonight, and Ashley Scott is a visionary entrepreneur, creative executive, realtor, and CEO of the Mobile Mavens, an Atlanta-based full-service marketing agency specializing in 360-degree immersive brand experiences and digital marketing. Ashley currently serves as the Vice President of the Freedom Georgia Initiative formed in 2020 to create a thriving safe haven for Black families in response to dealing with racial trauma, a global pandemic, and social economic instabilities. Please put your hands together and welcome Ashley Scott in the chat. Welcome, Ashley. I'm glad you're here. Derek E.D. Smith Jr. is a native of Lawton, Oklahoma. Derek has served as a gang intervention street outreach worker with the Lawton Gang Program. His program received credit for a 26% reduction in the juvenile crime rate in the Comanche County. Currently, Derek works in schools as a history influencer, encouraging youth to learn as much about themselves as possible. Welcome, Derek. Thank you so much for coming. Please give Derek a warm round of applause. And last but not least, we also have Alex Aaron. Alex is the founder and CEO of Blank Slate, a minority-owned development and construction company specializing in revitalizing vacant historic properties and stabilizing distressed neighborhoods. The firm is committed to promoting economic development while preserving the existing community. Alex earned a BBA in finance from Howard University. He currently resides in Baltimore City with his wife and 2 sons. Alex, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please put your hands together for Alex, and welcome all of our wonderful panelists. Hello, how is everybody this evening?
Great.
Good, thank you.
Beautiful. This is lovely. I am really excited about this, as is everyone else that is here, who is here, as you can tell. Before we get directly just jumping into exactly what we're talking about, this land ownership, I want each of you, if you would, to talk a little bit about the phrase economic power. So we say, I hear this phrase, we all hear it, this economic power, we hear it a lot. And it doesn't just mean having a job, right? It's like, that's not what it means. In the case that we are talking about, especially land ownership, can you all just discuss a little bit about economic power, what it means to you, and why we need it, why we need it?
Lady first.
Well, I'd be happy to go first.
Do it.
Ultimately, it's imperative for our generational wealth, for our survival, to begin to address the disparities and the issues that disproportionately are affecting our community. And we've been looking outside of ourselves to government entities, to nonprofit organizations, to other places to constantly try to fix our problems, issues that we have as a community. But ultimately, we can do these things ourselves when we begin to build our own communities with the intention of solving our problems. And reparations is not just something that we should be looking from governments. We should be looking at how we repair ourselves. And moving Black is a means to do that.
Okay, excellent.
For me, land ownership and economic go hand in hand. If you think about commodities, land and water are the 2 most valuable commodities. And now we have brilliant scientist, engineer, Moses West, who's developed a machine that can extract water from the atmosphere. We've taken away one of those issues with in terms of commodities. So there you have it. Land, I would say, is the most valuable commodity that any of us can possess. It is what has caused so many world wars. You know, land. You can't create any more of it. I understood very early on that ownership of land was the pathway to economic independence. I followed that path and I become economically independent because of land and because of real estate. So it was quite natural that anything that I did involving the uplift of our people in general would involve land. So that's why I think those things are paramount in the struggle.
I think mine is pretty quick. Economic power definitely means protection, and I think that part is really important, especially as we move Black and move forward, given what our history shows. So economic power is protection.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I agree with all my fellow panelists. I think for me, when I think of economic power, I think of freedom. So Ashley touched on dependency on government entities and nonprofits. When I hear economic power, I think of financial freedom. I think of independence and the ability not just to take, but also receive or give rather to the community. So for me, economic power is freedom.
Excellent. So we're talking about, we've gone through, defined economic power. I want to go through one more time and define Move Black. This movement, this Move Black, for people who are signing on today who have never heard of this, who are just like, what do I do? What do you want to do? Yes? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Good. So yes, tell me, just for each of you,
Muhammad, are you there?
Tell everyone what Move Black is.
Move Black. Move Black is a movement, of course. It is the new Blacktown freedom movement. And so it's definitely a conscious movement as well as a physical movement. We have to move to that space of Black consciousness in our minds. We have to develop that space if it's underdeveloped. It may be cliche to say be woke, but it's all about knowing what's going on first and foremost with your people, with your Black people in your community. It's that physical move Black. It's definitely a play on the words move back, regarding where Black people were most protected and safe in these safe havens, such as the 13 Black towns of Oklahoma, such as the ones we are creating with Freedom, Georgia, other Black communities and towns and settlements that exist that we need to revitalize. And so it's a third part to it as well. Move Black in a sense of making Black a priority, buying Black, investing in your Black community. So just moving Black all the way around.
Yeah. I'm wondering about just in general, and this, I feel like I'm opening, I would like to open this conversation, just starting this ball rolling. So for people who are out there who are saying, I don't want to move, for Black people specifically, who are in a mindset, you're talking about in quotes, being woke, but for those of us or those of them who are not woke and who are thinking about not moving to a space where, one, I don't know why do I need to move to a Black community where I'm perfectly fine in this white neighborhood where my kids can go to school among people and among schools that are not segregated, but they are, the education is good here. The neighborhood is good here. Why should I put my money anywhere else? So let's talk about the benefits. Let's talk about, what do you have to say to those people?
I'd like to say we ultimately are responsible for the world that we live in, regardless of how we have come to live in it. And by having this idea that the status quo is okay, that we're allowed to just continue to live in our world the way it is, even though for the bulk of Americans, it does not serve us. For the bulk of Black Americans, it does. We won't be able to see the real change that we deserve as a collective culture. So it's not just about the individualism. It's about really looking at how do as a culture in this group, in our accountability to one another. And ultimately, we constantly are putting our dollars back into communities that do not invest in Black businesses, Black families, and the Black agenda of economic independence. They siphon dollars from our community, and when the best, brightest of our Black community leaves to go to these other neighborhoods, to these other school systems, we are constantly giving those communities more resources that they don't even need. And it puts them in a better position to constantly attract that economic development, like Whole Foods and Starbucks and all the things that we want to see in our Black neighborhoods, because we graphics that a lot of these businesses are looking for when they look to invest in an area. So we have to become more strategic about how do we begin to bring our Black dollars, our best Black talent into communities are investing strategically together. That's what the Freedom Georgia Initiative really is about, is choosing collectively as a community to say, hey, we're going to invest in this area versus working in silos to build one community at a time or Black block at a time. And even when we do that, when we buy back a block, begin to invest for gentrification, we are ultimately keeping the status quo alive. So by moving Black, we can begin to say, hey, we're going to invest in new innovation, new infrastructure like renewable energy. We're going to invest in Black businesses that might not usually get the chance. So it's really just like Mr. Smith said, moving Black in our minds, understanding that when we get more conscious of what moving Black looks like, which is a thriving community where our best and brightest resources are staying within the community versus constantly going to build up and beef up a community that does not belong to us or our culture. So really looking at, okay, now is our chance, particularly in the midst of this pandemic, where people are working from home now. People, have the ability to live anywhere because of remote work. We're talking about climate change and how that's causing people in California to relocate, in Oregon to relocate. So we have to be strategic so that we can say, with these dollars, with all these, people who have the ability to be independent, location independent, let's strategically move into areas that we can invest in so that we can move the needle on generational wealth for Black families.
Mm-hmm. I see Alex nodding. I see you nodding, Alex. What are you thinking? What is your contribution?
Yeah, I mean, Ashley hit the nail on the head. So I'm based in Baltimore by way of DC. I worked in New York and lived in New York for a time. I was working in Manhattan and I lived in Brooklyn. And when I was listening to Ashley, it made me think of when I was in Brooklyn. I was in Bed-Stuy specifically before it, totally transformed. And I was fortunate to live in this building when there was an elderly Black man who kind of was like the doorman. And he had been there probably 40, 50 years. And he was giving me the scoop on how a Black man owned all or a bunch of buildings off of Jefferson and Bedford, right off Fulton Avenue in prime location. And he was telling me when the man passed away, the wife, and I don't know if it was the first wife or the second wife and the kids, they didn't know, what they were receiving with regards to all his properties. And unfortunately, they sold them off. And you know who they sold them to, the Jewish folk. And the Jewish folk came in just like what Ashley and Mr. Smith were talking about, supporting each other, coming together. The Jewish guy would buy the property. The Jewish company would be the property manager. The Jewish general contractor would get the renovation contract. And they were transforming Bed-Stuy, from down to Home Depot, like I said, all the way up to Fulton, to Nostrand and back. So, it's just amazing that in cities like Detroit and Chicago and Atlanta and Baltimore, We're just now having these conversations, and I think people are waking up and realizing, you know, we don't have to compete. We can come together and we can buy back the block. And I can call, you know, X person who might be the attorney. I'm not an attorney. I can call the architect, you know, who's my friend over here, you know, my brother from, you know, Morehouse, my sister from, and coming together. So, you know, that's what we're trying to do in Baltimore. I'm based here, and I often tap friends that live in other cities to come and be that engineer or that whatever, just so that we can keep this thing black, and give our people opportunity that maybe is not afforded elsewhere.
I would like
wondering, oh yes, please.
Yeah, I want to add on to what both Ashley and Alex were saying. Tammy is my witness. I actually lived in New York and began investing there perhaps 15, 20 years ago. And I was an outsider. And Bed-Stuy, one of the neighborhoods that I began investing in was Bed-Stuy. And I try to get all of the people that I know, yo, let's invest in Bed-Stuy, you know, it's booming, this and that. And flat out, everyone was like, you're crazy. I'm not putting my money in a property next to Marcy Projects. You know, I'm not buying a rundown brownstone in Bed-Stuy. And one of our colleagues, I remember telling Tammy that I was going to sell this brownstone that I had for over $1 million in Bed-Stuy, which was something that just hadn't happened in a black neighborhood because they're devalued. And the person ended up snickering and was like, ha, 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 yeah. And I ended up selling it for $1.3 million. And I paid $680,000 for it. So when people ask the question, why should I move black? Why should I move into a black neighborhood? I'm living testament that there's wealth in the black neighborhood. Every single property that I've ever bought in my life in a black community. And I've made money off of every single real estate investment I've made in the black community, all the way down from when I was in the projects. All my money came from other black people. So there's plenty of wealth in the black community. The other thing I think is critical is that black people have a right to want nice communities. We have a right to want safe communities. We have a right to want productive schools. And I think it's our job to create those things. You know, we can't just sit and keep talking about what we don't have. It is our job as the next leadership establishment to produce the things that we don't have. That is the whole purpose of a leadership establishment. And we are all leaders. And the Black Achievement Fund has developed an easy model for all of us to use collective economic, not only rebuild black communities, but also economically empower black individuals, empower black nonprofits, so on and so forth. And that solution is simple. 10 million black people, $9 a month is $90 million a month and over $1 billion a year in net cash. The Black Achievement Fund is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation. If you don't like what we're doing, simply stop giving your money. This is not a scam or anything like that. Already, we are approaching 1,000 founding members. We spent almost $30,000 this year with other black businesses. In fact, 76% of all of the capital that we brought in have gone to black businesses. So we're creating a viable model so for us to be able to sustain a high level of black economic organization and provide an economic foundation for us to be able to have the capital at hand every single month to begin the process of rebuilding. So just money's here, money's in our community. It's just, you know, someone said, actually I said it, you know, race relations is like professional sports. If the best and brightest are jockeying to be on the white team, we're never going to win. We have to figure out how to retain the best and the brightest on the black team. And for once, we've come with a solution, a way to do that. And through the Black Achievement Fund, the salaries that we have for people are top notch. You know, we understand that you have to pay the best in order to stay. So that was another thing that, you know, was a major consideration. We have a right to want great things, but we have greatness in us. The wealth is there. So there's plenty of reason to move black.
And Shannon, if I may just jump in, I want to address something Mr. Hodges says, because I think it's very important. Again, as a developer on the call, I'm often, and a brother at that, I go to these community meetings and I'm often, not often, but sometimes charged with, oh, you're a gentrifier, you're this and that. And something that Mr. Hodges said, it struck me when he talked about we deserve nice things, or we want our community to look nice, we deserve a good grocery store. So when I go to these communities, I try to educate people. And I like to use the term, I'm not a gentrifier, I'm a revitalizer. So we're doing revitalization, we're not doing gentrification, because and I only serve underserved communities, Black communities up and down in Baltimore City. For those who know Baltimore, I'm not in Fells Point, I'm not in Canton, I'm not in Patterson Park, I'm in Reservoir Hill. I'm in East Baltimore, in Oliver, and Broadway East, and those type of communities. So when we want to fix up those communities that have suffered disinvestment for years, have vacant and blighted property, and we're not just fixing up communities, we want to welcome, new businesses, whether they're national or hopefully, small and minority and women-owned businesses. That's part of creating kind of a sustainable community where you can go get a bite to eat down the street or go to the barbershop or whatever. But oftentimes it's misconstrued that because we're fixing an area and we're trying to invite, retailers or whatever, that we're gentrifying. And I think that's important for us and our people to understand. No, because we've been taught that all we deserve is a, Save-A-Lot grocery store. We don't deserve a Trader Joe's, or we deserve a Walmart in our neighborhood and not a Target or whatever. People shop at different places. But the point is, when we're fixing up communities and we're trying to recruit talent, be it national or local, we deserve that too. Some people like Starbucks, if that's your thing, that's cool. But we have to make sure that, and we have to tell ourselves and remind ourselves, we're entitled to whatever the white folks have in their neighborhoods too. And that's not gentrification. We just bringing it back.
Exactly.
On that note, I have a question here that is, how did you get started with the Freedom Georgia initiative?
Well, the Freedom Georgia initiative was built out of the fact that there was so many murders of Black men and women by police. And when we looked at all of the incidences all over the country, even in places like Atlanta, where we had Rashard Brooks shot in the back at a Wendy's, that there's something systemic about the cityhood or the people who are running and making decisions for its citizens. The systemic oppression is deeply rooted in the laws. And so the Freedom Georgia initiative was an idea born out of, we got to figure out how to get these laws passed without all of this stuff that's going on. Like, we constantly are waiting on these legislators to make decisions on the behalf of American people, and that takes years. But locally, we saw mayors start tearing down Confederate statues. We saw Keisha Bottoms remove the cash bond away so that when people got locked up, they didn't have to stay in jail because they don't have money to get out. And so when mayors can make these kinds of changes, that means we have to start looking at, okay, maybe there's a local role in how we can start to see the needle move for our community. Instead of constantly looking for state and federal regulations, which are important but take a long time, we need to start looking at models for success on a local level that can become replicatable. And so I was thinking all of this in my brain because I watched the city of Stonecrest be built by Jason Larry, who's an amazing Black politician and gentleman, along with the committee who built Stonecrest. And there's opportunities that you can make real lasting change when you are a municipal corporation, when you are an actual city with a charter, because now you have the ability to write laws, to keep cost of living down by what you attract for your strategy. Your tax base allows you to use the money a way that represents your citizens. And we've gotten, for whatever reason, very far removed from local civil engagement. We might show up to vote for the president, but a lot of us are not civically engaged. But buying land in an unincorporated area like we did with the Freedom Georgian Initiative, it set the stage for creating a community that's more intentional and pioneering something brand new that hasn't been done. And sometimes you need to pioneer something new versus trying to go back and fix some stuff that's been jacked up for years and years and years. And that's where the Freedom Georgia Initiative was born, out of this desire to figure out how do we become the change we want to see community, and how we become more involved in building our local community, picking our neighbors more intentionally, choosing our businesses that come to this area more intentionally. How do we work even with the county and being able to meet the needs of the county that we're bringing this community to, so that it's a win-win for everyone involved, versus going somewhere, buying land that's already got zoning and ordinances and rules and regulations and mayors and city council and district judges who, if you look at their histories, may not have ever been doing things that serve the citizens that live there, that probably look Black like you and me. Was the chance to buy land for generational wealth, which is what really got it started, was this idea that, okay, if we really want to make a change, we're gonna need some money. And if we really want to affect laws, we have to look at how do we become lawmakers. And pioneering a city, pioneering a community in an unincorporated area gives us, at the very least, the beginning stages of allowing that to happen. And so that's how the Freedom Georgia Initiative was born. It was born out of wanting to create a better world where Black men and Black women aren't targeted by police in their own communities, where we could potentially create a community that could be a model for well-being, for peace, for prosperity, for protection, for Black families that we hope will catch like wildfire, so that we can pioneer and begin to intentionally build cities that are a reflection of the people who live in them and who are creating them.
Yep, do it.
Well, the Black Achievement Fund got involved with the Freedom Georgia Initiative out of just pure synergy. The Black Achievement Fund is first and foremost about solutions. And what we saw and what the Freedom Georgia Initiative was doing was solutions. We are about sustainability. We are about land ownership. So it was a natural fit. And we're about building not just communities, but building a power structure for Black people, building institutions nationally for Black people. And we saw this as a way to get behind a group that had a similar focus, a similar dedication, and they had already brought so many of our brightest minds to the project that it was just, a glorious coming together, so to speak. So Ashley touched upon one of the things in which a municipality allows, and I wanted to touch on a little bit more what Derek was talking about, and that was protection. One of the reasons was to get away from all of this just mass killings in urban areas and things like that. And by having your own municipality, you control the police department. So again, when we talk about solutions, we build our own cities. When we become our own municipalities, now we have the power to control the police department, to write laws, like Ashley said, to control the criminal justice system. We don't have to lock anybody up if we don't want to. We can choose to banish people from our community altogether as a punishment. So the ability for us to be able to have our own land, our own governance structure, so that we can begin to act African people and to conduct ourselves as African people as opposed to Europeans. One of the reasons why we want to build our, again, is like, I'm not here looking forward to being honorary European. You know what I mean? And that's not being racist or anything. I love Black culture. I love my people. So I want to be in a Black community, and I want to see other Black people thriving in our own communities. It shouldn't option, or you shouldn't be forced to live somewhere else to live nice. So that's how we got aligned with Freedom Georgia Initiative.
And hey, that's good stuff, brother. The way the 13 black towns of Oklahoma got involved with the Freedom Georgia Initiative was to obviously bring the history of black towns and what we're doing moving forward, or moving black, to bring the history to it and the foundation. With the black towns of Oklahoma as an example, Black Wall Street is a big trend nowadays. Even if people don't know so much about what it really is or was, they've heard about it more than likely at this point. And so Oklahoma, we had more than 100 Black Wall Streets, just smaller versions. The difference is they were not black communities governed by non-black powers. They were actually independent black towns with post offices and school systems and economic bases. And so that's how the 13 black towns of Oklahoma got involved with the Freedom Georgia Initiative, to bring it full circle, if you should say, to bring that foundation up under it. As an example, we've done this. There's no reason we shouldn't exist in this space in this day and age, with the levels of technology and black success in money and power and economics that we have achieved. So here we are.
Derek, I'm going to ask you to continue talking a little bit, because we have a question that's right in line with what you're saying, which is sometimes we think this is new to our community. Can you talk about, and this is, I'd love you to kick it off, but everyone please join in. We think this is new to our community. Can you talk about our history of black towns?
Yes, most definitely. We have 13 that still exist here in Oklahoma. The first one was actually founded in 1850. A lot of people may know Oklahoma for being native land or Indian land. And what I like to say, I've been to all four corners of the United States. And when I tell people that I'm from Oklahoma, depending on how far away I am, they say there's black people in Oklahoma. well, most definitely. There were lots and lots of black communities because of the intermingling with the native people when everybody essentially was placed here, when they thought this land didn't mean anything. Before they came back to take it again with the Boomer Sooner land runs. I'm all about infusing our cultural and urban entertainment with that history, because it's important for us to understand that. And so we have 13 black towns now. We had over, I have a list personally, it's unpublished, of over 100. You'll be lucky to find on the internet, they take our numbers down to 20 to 30 black towns. You'll be lucky to hear them say 50. But I have over 100 verifiable black towns and or settlements just in Oklahoma alone. That's not getting into the mountain bayous. The North Carolina had a Black Wall Street. Oklahoma's not the only place. Allensworth, California, just about anywhere you have black people, there was some sort of black independence, whether it was a small community or if it flourished as an actual black town. So this definitely is not new to us.
Yeah. And to add to that, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and it is important for us to acknowledge the pioneers who gave us the inspiration and the courage to move forward. A lot of people don't understand that as leaders, we read about the past, and that history gives us the fortitude, the courage, and the energy to move forward in a more constructive and careful path. So like what Derek is saying, this isn't something that's new. We had tons of black towns before, and it's our job to see what compelled them to thrive, what were the cause of their demise. So as we move forward with new initiatives like Freedom Georgia, we don't fall into the same traps. We know what happened with Tulsa. We know what happened with Rosewood. We know what happened with Wilmington, North Carolina. We know about the Red Summer of 1919. So as they say, if you don't know about your history, you're going to repeat the failures of your history as well. So We're looking at this holistically and understanding that there is a lot of history beneath us, and there is a lot of innovation in front of us that we have. So it's just an exciting time to be alive, to be Black.
There is a question here. I want to get into some very specific things that people can do as far as gaining land, owning land. But before we do that, there was one more question that someone had. So we were talking, Ashley, you started talking about it, everyone was talking about it, but this mentality shift that needs to happen. And one of the questions here is, what is Move Black doing to pull our folks that haven't dared to dream of nice things or good schools? So I'm wondering individually, that's what it was. Actually, you were talking about we're voting for the president, right? We go out, we vote for the president, but we're not getting in on the local government. We're not getting in on that so much. And I am wondering, even more local, like deep within ourselves locally, what is the mental shift that you can do, I can do, to help someone understand that they deserve what you were talking about, Alex. They deserve a Starbucks. They deserve a whatever it is. But what's the language that you can use? What are the things that you can say to people to start shifting their minds to believe those types of things?
Here's the thing. There's nothing I can say. We have to begin to show people these realistic models of success. People don't see it enough. If we don't see it, you can't believe it. It's like why we have atheists. There's people like, I can't see God, so how can I have faith that he exists? You know what I mean? We have to choose that faith. And a lot of us have different levels of faith. And so to try to speak to somebody on a level of faith that they are not at, the best thing you can do is to show them better than you can tell them. That's what my mama used to say. I'll show you better than I can tell you. And so when we create a community where people are thriving and they can see Black success right in front of them, then they begin to aspire for more. I look at my children. Since we became landowners, my children have a sense that they are landowners too. My daughter made a song the other day when we were looking at the drone shots over the land that we purchased, and there was like a little beat that they were playing in the background, and my daughter's musically inclined, so she started singing, "This is my land and you can't take it. This is my land and you can't take it," you know? And when you show people the example of what success looks like, what successful Black families look like when we are successful Black business owners and we're working and practicing group economics. And I can say, Arkee is an investor in our business in this way, and we are creating jobs. And now that we started creating these jobs, we started an apprenticeship program. And through our apprenticeship program, we're able to teach other people how to get into this industry. Then other people are inspired around us. And I always talk about, we have to create replicatable models of success. So until we start to build it and then to show it, because a problem that we have in America in Black America is this idea that we don't want to show we don't want the left hand to know what the right hand is doing. And so instead of sharing information with each other, we get rich by ourselves. And then we tell people, I figured it out, you're going to have to do the same. Right. And we can't do that. We have to charge our successful Black businesses, our successful Black entrepreneurs, our successful politicians, and our successful leaders to come out of the closet and start sharing these stories with regular old folks so that we can begin to inspire the next generation. So it's not necessarily what can I say, it's what can I show you? So that way, when people see it, they're inspired by it. And the proof is in the pudding, because the minute we went public with what we did, I was able to help 100 other people learn how to buy land using group economics. So when we begin to just show up and share, then will inspire these other people who seem as if they don't have any motivation. It's just they don't have any models.
And I just second that and just say it's all about leading by example and showing and proving and creating a greener pasture. I'm the type of person, if you want me to follow you, I'm not going to be broke. Okay. I'm not the type of person that believes that there's all this virtue in being poor and all of that type of stuff. I don't believe in that. I believe that we all should be prosperous and that we all have enough talent so that we could be prosperous together. So, leading by example, showing people the possibilities. I majored in African American studies, and I come from a conservative Black family from Virginia, who's very successful. And you can imagine when I said I'm going to major in African American study, they were like, "What the hell are you going to do with that?" But it would be okay if I majored in anthropology, if I majored in English, if I majored in the classics. That would have been okay. So we just have to be able to show people that being all Black is not a death sentence. You can be prosperous and be all Black. You can take pride in your cultural identity. You don't have to lose your voice, your swagger in order to be successful. And that's what we're about with the Black Achievement Fund, and showing that through group economics, what we can accomplish. So far, just through $9 a month, we are providing right now, our members have access to grants. The Black Achievement Fund provides grants to nonprofit organizations right now, like your organization, so you guys will be eligible for a general operating grant. We provide scholarships to our members right now, and not just for educational development, but also for professional and personal development. If you need a trip to Africa, this is too much, and you apply for the Black Achievement Fund for a ticket, we'll help you with your ticket. If you want to go and learn how to play the flute, the Black Achievement Fund will help you learn how to play the flute. And we're doing all of this on your terms and through other people's money. So now when you get that scholarship from the Black Achievement Fund, when you get that grant from the Black Achievement Fund, it's not the Black Achievement Fund, but is your Black brothers and sisters and our non-Black friends across the country and outside the country who are doing this. And this is every single month in a sustainable way. We have less than 1,000 members right now. And last month we generated close to $20,000 just off of small donations. And all of this capital was recycled right back into our community. 76% went back into Black businesses. So there are models that we need to employ, and we have to understand that we don't have to work within European frameworks in order for us to find success. And in fact, I feel like we have to abandon these structures in order to really find those that suit our personality, suit who we are, and enable us to thrive in this alien land on our terms instead of someone else's terms.
Yeah. And it's all in the history again. I bring it back to that history, the blueprint, not just on paper, but the actual model. That's what the 13 Black Towns tour is about. Taking people back to see these actual Black towns that still exist. One thing that blew me away was when I first began to see the old brick schools in the Black towns that, of course, are no longer open, but they were most of them built in the 1920s. If you go to Lima, Oklahoma right now, you go to Bowley, Oklahoma right now, look at the structures that still exist from the early 1900s, the 1920s and such. When you think, I think some of us think that history is so far back. When Black Wall Street was burned down, it was the 20s. It was brick buildings. It wasn't, wooden structures. Our infrastructure goes way back. And so taking people back to these Black towns with the 13 Black Towns tour, you can go online, the number 13 blacktownstour.com, and you can see the circuit that we have built up here in Oklahoma between the 13 Black towns so that people can begin to visit these places and see the proof of what we've done as a people already as we move forward and we're moving Black.
Excellent. So I promised that I would get us to the the actual things that we can do. And a baseline question that we have is, what is the immediate next step? So let whoever is watching you right now, some people are thinking, okay, I did it. You don't even have to say anything else. I'm going to do, what is the answer? What are they going to do right now that's going to help them on this journey that you were talking about?
They're going to look for information first and foremost. So they're already doing the right thing by being here in this group. And so Move Black, listen for that, Freedom Georgia Initiative, the Black Achievement Fund, you know, we're a collective, and that's Move Black, the 13 Black Towns tour here in Oklahoma. And I definitely personally would like to see a little bit more about what's going on with my man Alex out in Baltimore, you know, so that we can bring more people into the movement, because eventually we just all need to move black together and we'll be on top of our game as a people.
And I'm going to say before Alex starts talking is join the Black Achievement Fund. That is literally the first best step for anybody listening to this conversation to get plugged in, because through that mechanism, we're organizing ourselves, we're providing that information, that curriculum, that education through the academy, Education for Life Academy, that gives you the origins of civilization. And when you have that mindset change, because a lot of us have been miseducated for a very long time. So if you don't understand that we built empires, forget about the fact that we built some cities in 1920, but we built whole empires that literally set up the European and every civilization that came after. Then we take our power back. And when we take our power back, then we can start to say, okay, let's organize collectively and stop dealing with all of these trust issues and people dealing with hurt issues. Like, no, we have to figure out solutions to get over all of those mental blocks, those money blocks, those wealth blocks, all the things that have been blocking us from success, so that we can begin to organize. And I gotta shout out Killer Mike. Like, we gotta plan, plot, organize, mobilize, and strategize. And the Black Achievement Fund is an infrastructure for that to happen, because I just personally feel like we're having too many conversations separately. It's 23 people on this live right now. It should be 2.3 million people when it's 48 million Black people living in America. We're not having this conversation strategically so that we can say, okay, we're going to buy Baltimore next. We're going to Houston next. We're taking care of Louisiana next. We're going to, like, we need to figure out a way to get as many of us in the room, particularly at the very least, as many of us bright Black folks who have, and not to say that we should dismiss other folks, but at the end of the day, people who have the wherewithal, the skills, the resources, the intellect, the talent, and the time, and the money need to come together and start being strategic. And we can use the Black Achievement Fund to do that.
Right. Become a part of the solution. Become a part of the solution. That's the first step. And it doesn't require your time to join the Black Achievement Fund. You know, it's an economic problem that we're facing. So it's about money. The solution is about money. So you can put as little as $9 in per month, and you can be doing your part, even if you don't have time. That's what the Black Achievement Fund is. It's an infrastructure to get us there.
Yeah, and I think Derek, Ashley, I agree with both of your points. I think Derek hit the nail on the head when he said first step is just information, you know, just look for that. I think for me, if I could summarize, it would be intentional. I mean, she talked about Killer Mike. I was going to drop that too. I mean, you can bank Black, you can buy Black, you can support one another. It kills me when I hear some people say, oh, I don't want to go to a Black business because they're slow or they're this or that. They might be slow because they don't have as many staff as the next business, because they just have enough X amount of staff and overhead and this and that. So they're doing the best they can, but they're in business, they're open. So we got to support them. So be a little more patient. When you're buying from Black businesses, or if you buy something online and they don't get it right, you know, send it back, they'll sort you out, you know. So be patient, be intentional, you know, empower yourself with knowledge. I just want to touch on the real estate tip, because part of my mission that I preach out here is the notion of creating generational wealth through home ownership. So I think it's important for people to look into what does it mean to buy a house. You know, you don't have to be Madam Ashley over here and buying all the land with drones and stuff. You could just start with one house, the house you live in, stop paying rent, and start getting that equity. And what does that mean? What does your credit look like right now? How can you, afford to buy a house, and what are the steps you have to take to that? So that's one, just preaching home ownership as a way of creating wealth in our community. And then two, I often get calls of people want to start flipping houses and they're watching HGTV and it looks so cool, and that's great. But for me, and what I've noticed is the real cats that are winning are not the ones doing the flipping, but the ones doing the BRRRR model, we call it. So buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. So instead of buying that house and fixing it up and selling it, you buy that house and fix it up, you rent it out, you refinance, and then you go do it again and again and again. So you slowly build your portfolio of 5, 10, 15, 20 houses. And it doesn't just have to be the city in you're living. It can be diverse. You could buy some in Atlanta. You can call me, buy some in Baltimore, go to Chicago, come out to Oklahoma. But that is, in my opinion, one of the sure ways to wealth through real estate. I used to work on Wall Street, so you can do finance, you can do insurance, you can do a number of things. But real estate, owning, land and property, I think can really set you towards the path to financial freedom.
Alex, I want you to keep talking a little bit because there is a question here. It says, I work in infrastructure and I am ready to I'm ready to use this for our purposes. How can I help move this project forward and use that experience to share on other projects?
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, so in every city, right, when we have development projects, larger projects too, there should be some type of MBE and WBE. And if those who don't know, MBE is Minority Business Enterprise, WBE is Woman Business Enterprise. And there's veteran owned and so on and so forth. But if you are a person of color and you're in infrastructure, again, starting to what my man Derek said, look at information out there and see how you can get on different lists for MBE and WBE. You can be on your city level, you can be state level, but essentially there are contracts that go out and there is a requirement. So people are looking for, people of color in those respective fields, whether you're a civil engineer, an architect, or whatever. But that's how I think you can contribute, or do your research on different projects that are posted out there and maybe reach out to the project manager or owner and say, hey, can I bid on whatever portion? Because if you have that skill set, it's definitely needed across the nation for different development projects.
I'm going to have you keep talking a little bit more because this literally says, question for Alex. If I have a dream or a vision of developing a block, where would you advise me to start?
You need to get with my folks on the call right here. For me, I'll be honest with you. So I'll share my story, my background. Again, I'm blessed to have went to HU, the real HU for some of y'all on the call. Went to DC. I studied finance, and I wasn't even thinking finance or Wall Street. I came into Howard a management major. I knew I wanted to be in business. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I noticed quickly that people who were accounting and finance majors got offered the internships at different companies. And it just so happened when I was in the School of Business there, my company was Morgan Stanley. I was offered an internship and then ended up working there full time thereafter. So I wasn't thinking that route, but that's where I went. It was great. I did it for a couple of years in my 20s. And then I started this development firm. When I was leaving New York and coming back to the DMV area, my thought process was to do DC, go to Georgetown, get my MBA. But I ended up starting this development company. I looked at Chicago, I looked at Detroit, I looked at Jersey, I looked at Baltimore, I looked at a number of cities. And the reason I chose Baltimore, a couple of reasons. One, the people are very authentic. You're not just going to pull up here and do whatever you want, like I've seen in other cities. So I respected that. Two, the architect, in my opinion, is just phenomenal. There's a lot of great bones and properties here that, just need some TLC. But three, it was the affordability to market entry. So when other properties, in other cities, particularly DC and New York, where I was coming from, you're dealing with white guys who have cash. And they're buying shells, properties that have no life left in them for 6, 7, 8, 900,000, and still putting another 300,000 or 400,000 in them and selling them for whatever. But Baltimore, it was possible to buy a house for 1,000 or 5,000 or 10. Of course, those type of deals still exist and the numbers have changed, but I was able to get in. I bought my first house via auction in 2015 in Baltimore for 5,000. We fully renovated it. We pre-sold it while I was under construction for 279. And it was near Johns Hopkins. So the possibility that it's possible here, and I didn't have to have all this money, I could leverage a CDFI, a community development financial institution, which is basically like a nonprofit bank that helps people like me, emerging developers, do the work they can do. So if you're interested in buying back a block, I would say research the different cities. In my opinion, it's possible in Chicago and Detroit, Baltimore, and probably New Orleans. So it's just a handful of cities just because of the cost. But yeah, join it. I mean, anybody can do it. I love what Ashley said about showing them. When I go to community associations or I go to present downtown and I walk in, whether I'm in a t-shirt or suit, sometimes they're thinking like, who's this guy? Am I the assistant? And I'm like, no, I'm the owner. And then we have the conversation. So people look up to you, they respect you. And I'm happy to share any stories. I see Karen just posted our link. If you want to go on our website, we have a contact or investor portal section. It comes to my team and we can set up calls and talk, but it's very possible. And if you need help on how to get started, how do I get that block? Or like I said, what financing options do I look at? Or, what does my credit need to be? I can help you share that. And the one thing I just want to leave you with, and it took me a while to come to this, but working together, I always looked at what did I have? How much money do I have? My savings, my this and that, but you have friends. I love what you guys are doing with regards to $9 a month. That's phenomenal, right? And they're supporting different people on different levels doing different things, but coming together or pooling your money together will get you there much quicker and further than if you just focus on what you have and what's in front of you. When I was in school, I think they used to teach us the definition of entrepreneurship was the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently under control. The definition of entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently under control. So don't think about what you have, but what maybe you have access to, what you can get, and you make it happen. So thank you guys for having me on the call. I appreciate it. We'll still be here, but yeah, feel free to reach out with any further questions with regards to real estate or development.
Yep, I was like, Ashley, you've been holding your tongue, so go ahead and let it loose, let fly.
Yeah, no. So one of the things I was just gonna say is you should definitely start with what you know. You know what I mean? The areas that you're in, start there, and don't be afraid to take a chance, because a lot of times that's what happens. We don't take chances on us. We don't take chances on our community. And so some of the resources that I would just like to point out is my seminar, How to Buy Land Using Group Economics, which I dropped in the chat. But there's some other great resources for an financial education and a business education that can lead you down the path. And so one of those resources I'd like to talk about is Earn Your Leisure University. Earn Your Leisure University is an amazing seminar that I'll actually be teaching a class there this Wednesday at 8 p.m. But Earn Your Leisure University has classes in the back where they actually walk you through all of these principles, all of these terms. And sometimes you need that way to kind of take this course on your own. People that look like you are teaching it, that are those models. So I definitely want to plug them. My next thing I would say is, when you're buying Black the Block, like you said, $1,000, $5,000, start where you are. Don't get discouraged and look for partners. Like who are the people in your life that are going to work with you and ride with you on this journey, because there's going to be challenges. And when you get into the business of development, it's going to be huge challenges that come along, $1 million challenges that can come along. And even on smaller projects, like I want to talk about what Alex said about the BRRRR method of buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. When you buy a property, you get it for as little as you possibly can. And that's where you make your money, is by buying something reasonably. But you also need to understand what the costs are. You have to add up the costs before you get started, because when come along, if you don't have that reserve, if you don't have that money in the pot to be able to say, okay, this is how I overcome those challenges, you're going to quit before you get started. And so really understanding that you need a team. And if you don't have a team of, you know, a homie or your friend or a relative, you need a good realtor. So start with that. Get yourself a realtor, somebody you can talk with, who can be your guide. Find a good financial planner or financial advisor, so that way you can begin to take advantage of and leverage vehicles like your self-directed IRA, so that you can begin to invest. And get yourself, you know, a good PR agent, somebody that's going to actually help you to get your story out, because a lot of times we're doing stuff that we've never done before, and we're trying to wear every hat. And you can't wear every hat and expect yourself to be successful. So invest in the people, the experts, and the information that you're going to need to be able to be successful on this journey. And I saw a question about what's the difference in being a real estate agent or a developer. Well, as a developer, you're taking the chance of buying this land, of bringing all of the topographic discovery, all the things that build the infrastructure out to become a land developer, to develop a community. And beyond just the infrastructure, you're also going to be building up the community and that economic development aspect, the reasons why somebody wants to live in that area. A real estate agent is then going to sell it. Once the land developer has put it all in place, they done laid the pipes, the plumbing, the streets, built the houses and did all that work. Now a real estate agent will come and sell those houses or lease that commercial building or those mixed use spaces. So the difference between a real estate agent and a developer is a long distance, because a developer puts a whole lot of money into just the initial infrastructure before a house even appears. And so, and there's also a difference in being a real estate investor, because you can be a real estate investor and never swing a hammer, never do a deal. You can literally just give your money to the cause and let people who are experts do this work. So start with your real estate investing community. We have REIs is what it's called. Find who that local Black real estate investing community might be, and start joining those groups, and, you know, find out who, you know, is a trusted realtor in the area that's trendy or hot that you might be interested in. But definitely build your team of experts and get started where you are. Don't feel like you have to, you know, like he said, you can buy in other cities, but there's a gym in your hood that you can buy today. Go do that. There's some land that's a lick right now that you can go and buy that land. And if you buy it cheaply and own it outright, you can get a hard money lender to pay the money to build it up. And then you get a real estate agent to sell it. So there's a million ways to skin a cat, but you have to get that information and you have to link up with other experts, people who are going to take that journey with you.
And I would just add, and those experts, you need some contractors. If you're going to be doing anything with development that is going to be dependent upon you using contractors, you need to make sure you have a good crop of contractors, because that's where your money is. A lot of these deals, the profit is a thin margin. So if you are using mom and pop contractors who can't get the job done at the level that it should be, or can't meet deadlines and things like that, that's when you're losing your money. And a lot of people don't understand that when you have a job or something where you are 100% in control, you can get some things accomplished and you have to worry about little things. But when you don't control the contractors and all of those things, other people's crews and all of that, you just have to know what you're getting into with the contractors, or you'll lose your shirt. Also, I would say, make sure that you know how to properly value a neighborhood. You know, what are the comps? What are the comps of the other neighborhood? but sitting down and actually having a plan and having a strategy and seeing where your competitive advantage is, and not just buying something always out of your gut, because you could end up, losing your shirt that way. But just having your number game together, how much is this realistically going to cost, and being very conservative with the estimate, so that understanding that if something does happen, you have cushion in your budget to cover those things, but knowing your other resources for your bailout. So knowing the organizations that will help you in case you come into foreclosure issues. A lot of people don't know what happens when that first procedure begins to take place, when you're on a list pendants and stuff like that, and then all of these investors started calling you. A lot of people will put their head in the sand and stop answering the mail and all of those things. But having a backup plan, understanding that if this thing goes awry, where's my safety net? What community organizations exist that may be able to bail me out? But thinking it all the way through and having a plan to back you out is as critical as having a plan to make the thing successful. So I would just add that.
It's good to add. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, there was a question here, but I feel like you're touching on it, Arkee, which was with these big projects, how, and you said it, Ashley, don't get discouraged. And I'm wondering, just in general, pulling back a little bit from the specifics, in general, what are some things that all of you have encountered, some pushback or some not positive, some negative things that you have encountered, and how have you stayed encouraged? How have you kept going?
I bought that $680,000 shell in Bed-Stuy that Alex was talking about, when Bed-Stuy was still a piece of crap, and my family. So I invite my family up from Virginia or whatnot to see this house I'm about to buy, this brownstone, and they're scared to go in. You know what I mean? They're like, is it okay to go in? I mean, it looked like a haunted house. So, but it's having the vision. You understand? Like, I knew that this house was on the historic block within Bed-Stuy, so, and all of that entailed. It had all the original details of the brownstone, including the original hardwood floors and all of those things, all the original pocket shutters and the medallions around the doors. So I saw the value where others didn't see the value. And just what you were talking about, Alex, the owner of that brownstone, his parents had owned that house outright since 1985. No mortgage on it or anything. And his parents died in the house without the house being fixed up when they had all of this equity in this house. His sons could have taken equity out of that house, fixed that house up in the same manner that I did. And when it came, so their parents could have enjoyed a splendid brownstone. And when it came time to sell it, the value in the renovations would have carried what he put in, and he would have gotten all of it out. Instead, I was able to capture all of that lost equity that he couldn't realize and he didn't see. And he went and bought a Porsche truck, and he came back like 3 or 4 years later to see what I'd done to the house or whatever. And the Porsche truck was old and the house was new. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a trade-off. So you got to go with your gut. But the thing was, I had my numbers together. You know what I mean? I knew my financing structure. I knew my bailout points. So I didn't go in it blindly, and I didn't go in it emotionally, but I had enough information. And when you have enough information and you're prepared, you are confident and it's going to work.
And that's how you overcome challenges.
Yep. Being prepared.
Being prepared and confident.
You said vision. That's the key word. I gave you a definition of entrepreneurship earlier. My second definition would be seeing the value where others don't. That's entrepreneurship. I mean, I don't care if it's land. I don't care if it's buying a business, you're doing a widget, a product, whatever. But when you see value where others don't, I mean, you're a step ahead. So some setbacks that I've had, and all will probably face, track record. You know, when I came, I told you I was coming from finance. I wasn't in development. I have been in real estate, you know, from an investment standpoint in the past, but I didn't have a track record. I didn't have a history. So I knew, and I told you the first couple of houses I did, I would buy them, I would get them under construction, and I would start marketing them, because to Mr. Hodges' point, I think my margins were thin, and I couldn't afford to hire a realtor at 5 or 6% of sales price, because that was going to eat into my margin. So I was working my butt off trying to pre-sell the house. So by the time the house was finished, it was already sold. And I did that a couple of times. So the first time the banks look at me like, yeah, you got lucky. The second time, the third time, I'm like, it's not luck, player. That's what I'm doing. So what's good? So then they trusted me and they gave me more money to go and buy more houses and renovate them. So building a track record is number one. Number two, don't accept no ever in your life. A lot of people are going to tell you no. The city will tell you no. The banks will tell you no, but just keep pushing back. And in one particular place, and I forgot who said it earlier, I don't know if it was Derek or Ashley, but when it comes to appraisals, they always want to devalue our communities, even if we're right across the street from a community that has higher homes for sale. I'm doing a refinance right now on a 3-unit building I had to get 3 appraisals. The first one came in at 455. The second one came in at 565. And the third one is maybe around 530. But if I took that first one at 455, I would have been leaving so much cash on the table. And I told the bank, I said, I'm not going to refi this thing again for 7-10 years. So I'm trying to take everything I can now. So I said, no, we got another one. The second one, I said, no, I'm not buying that. Or they weren't taking it. Then I had to go again. I said, let's compromise. So when it comes to appraisals, when you're selling or you're refinancing and they're just telling you the value's not there, push back, put your foot down and ask for another one. That one is really important on the appraisal side, because they always try to devalue our communities, no matter how spectacular you model that property. So yeah, don't accept no, push back, build your track record, and just protect yourself. I would say get insurance. You have home insurance, you have auto insurance, you have health insurance. You can get an umbrella insurance, we call it, where maybe you just have $1 million policy on yourself and or your business, because as you start to succeed, the haters will come out and they want to take you to court, and they always come. But if you have some insurance, some safety net, it'll protect you, your assets, and your family just for whenever something happens. So get some insurance.
I think I see one of the challenges as, what if you don't have any money? And never let money stop you, because just like Alex said, when we haven't announced this yet, and it's only 25 of y'all, so I can tell y'all, we purchased our 96.71 acres, and then we wanted to turn around and buy another 400 or so acres, because we know we needed 640 acres in order to build a city here in Georgia. Well, when we tried to go to the traditional banks and institutions, just like Alex said, it was like, we ain't fooling with y'all. And we still were able to buy and acquire our land, but we had to get creative. So you have to figure out ways to be able to get creative. And then on top of that, we leveraged our network, because we didn't have enough money for the down payment on the next land acquisition. But we were able to bring together people who had the financial means to be our gap funders. And then we did what we needed to do to acquire the land. By just making it happen, it's this idea, if you build it, they will come. Once we got started, the resources came. We were able to attract the gap funders. We were able to talk a hard money lender and lending on land, even though they don't do that anymore. We were able to get a Black developer to say, yes, we'll not only come on board as your master planner, but we'll buy some of the land, so that way you're out of this institutional loan that you have. So that way now you are cash flowing. So just by taking the initial step and not taking no for an answer when institutions told us that they weren't going to give us the money for the next land acquisition, it forced us to become creative. It forced us to open our mouth and ask for help, because that's a big problem some of us have in our community too. We don't want to ask folks for help because we think that, either they ain't got it, because we think that usually, or we think that we don't want to owe no man nothing but to love them, so we don't ask people for help. But when you broke and you still have a vision, you will find a means to make it happen.
Even doing stuff like, people have $15,000 credit card limits.
Come on now.
I took a credit card, $10,000 credit card, and bought a condo. You know what I mean? Instead of going and buying clothes, and got a whole cash advance. for the whole 10,000. So there's ways to get money for financing. You just have to be creative
and take a chance on yourself.
And take a chance on yourself sometimes. So don't ever take no for an answer. Bet on yourself, but do the homework. Do the homework. Don't be lazy with it. Know what the comps are, that sort of thing.
I have friends who are I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shannon.
I was waiting because it looked like Derek had something on his heart that it was like bubbling up. I'm reading Derek's face.
I'm enjoying the conversation for the most part. However, I financed the first Black Towns tour by really just bringing people into the loop of the information, and I knew that the information was valuable, and so I figured if I could take this information to my fellow Black establishments, restaurants, barbershops, and things, they in turn will support what I'm doing. And so I was able to get the restaurants and the barbershops maybe to just put in $50 to support the movement moving forward. And so that added up to my budget to cover my overhead from no money. And so that's one way, without having money, look to your resources that you may not necessarily think are resources, just regular people around us. It's not about how much, it's about, sometimes just being able to contribute something. And so any hurdles and things like that I faced, discouragements, not so much in what I do, because again, I bring the history, I bring the information. I don't get up I haven't gotten up into the millions or the hundreds of thousands in terms of what I'm doing and having to borrow money, but it's about being consistent and moving and bringing information to people, and so there's many different ways that you can achieve your goals and what you're working towards. Money is only one part of it. We have each other for the most part.
And I want to add, first of all, is it just me or does Derek come on with this smooth jazz after hours voice? Like, what? But I dig it, my brother. I dig it. I'm just like, he come on smooth now. Calm, just chill. But respect, my brother. But you and Arkee said something, and I think it's very important. If you're putting a plan together, you're working with your friends or whoever, sometimes keep it to yourself, initially, because like Arkee would say, his family coming from Virginia, they looking at him like, you buying this brownstone in Bedside, you crazy. And they could have discouraged him, and maybe he would have been like, you know what, let me pass, let me look for something else. But he kept going. I had a similar instance. I was in New York and I was buying my first house in 2012, and it was in DC, and I bought it sight unseen. I was doing it off MLS, but I knew the area just like he knew that area. It was near Howard. It was in Harvard Street. This was before the DC boom. And I used, leverage on how to buy it, working from home and all this other stuff. But my dad was like, you're crazy. Don't do it. DC is not there. Forget that. It's a waste of money. And if I would have listened to him, I would have never had that first house. That house to today is one of my highest grossing equity houses. I've never touched the money. I've never done cash out. I've never, taken a loan or anything, but it's on my balance sheet. So when I apply for now loans, they look at that and they're like, okay, at least he has his house. Worst case, we could take his house. I would never in this life let the banks do that, but I have that as leverage. So again, sometimes family members could be your worst enemy or the worst people to talk you out of what you're going to do or what your plan is. So when you're in the planning stage, if you want feedback, I'm not saying don't talk to them, but sometimes keep it to yourself and keep it pushing. And if they're discouraging you, try to exhaust every outlet or resource or network that you have to make sure that your plan goes to play. And I dropped some words in the chat. One of my favorite quotes is by Arthur Ashe: start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. I often reread that just to get motivated. And then when we talk about money and we don't have money getting started, a lot of us didn't have money getting started. Leverage OPM. I like to call it other people's money. You know, ask your cousin, your neighbor, whoever, y'all get this fund together, like the Black Achievement, and you guys pull resources together that so you can implement whatever you're trying to do. It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be, you know, opening a barbershop, whatever, you know, that you're just trying to get some cash flow. You might want to start one business to get some cash flow to do, you know, the next phase that you really want to achieve. But come together as one. You know, we all are here to support each other, and anything's possible. The sky is not the limit. It's just the beginning.
And I will just say, for those of you here, don't be that family member. Make it your business to start encouraging folks. When they come out with a bright idea, encourage them, because we don't have enough encouragement. We're so quick as just people in general to jump to the negative side of things because of there's a little thing in our brain that tells us believe that there's always going to be a dinosaur chasing us. And so we look to the negative very quickly. So charge yourself, charge your heart to say, I'm not going to be that family member. My friends, my family, they come with an idea. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to invest in something that may be risky, but without risk, there's no reward. So and the more risk, the more reward. So we have to begin to encourage each other and be that person who's going to be that cheerleader on the side versus always trying to be that voice of reason, because we already got enough in our own head with our own self-talk that will keep us from making an investment or making a big change towards success. And we don't want to ever be the person that talks somebody out of $1 million deal. Don't be that.
I'll second that, because, you know, doing something like the Black Achievement Fund over 25 years, you guys can imagine how many naysayers we get when you tell them that you're seeking 10 million Black people to put $9 in, you know, and I'm bulletproof when it comes to criticism and all of that, because I've had enough personal successes against all of the naysayers that my confidence is solidified, and I know and I have the vision. But so many people, so many of us lack the confidence because we're going into things with. So when you have 2, 3, 4 people being a naysayer, it's enough to drive enough doubt to make a person turn around and just, weld their hands. And I'll tell you, like, I even had a moment like that recently. So it happens to the best of us. So like Ashley was saying, and I tell people all the time, like, if I don't get it or whatever, I'd be like, listen, I don't get it, but the guy who made the Snuggie is a multimillionaire. So, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Don't let me rain on your parade just because I don't get it. You know what I mean? I have faith in you, and I believe in you. Keep going, so on and so forth. You don't always have to get it in order for something to work. You're not the end all be all on, what's possible. So just always remember that, and just be able to provide as much encouragement as criticism.
I'm wondering for all of you in that vein, do you know of, and can you speak to any programs, this is a question, or efforts underway focused on educating our youth to where land ownership becomes their normal?
Well, I mean,
there's
my own personal program. I don't know of any programs in particular, but one of the most important things to me in terms of the youth, I do go into the schools a lot. That's why I want to go ahead and answer. Self-identity education, first and foremost, and land ownership. When they bring me in to talk about the Black towns, most of the youth in the schools of Oklahoma don't know what Oklahoma means. Boomer Sooner football is a big deal. And it's not a coincidence that the Boomer Sooner race was for land, and the Black history of that whole story was left out of it. And so I definitely make it a point to encourage the youth by infusing them with history. I firmly believe that history unlocks your purpose. The more you know about yourself, first and foremost, when you step into these history classes, they should tell you to learn your history first and foremost. That's what they should tell us, because that motivates the kids to want to learn more. Any point, any time frame in history, you had family somewhere working, fighting towards something. More than likely, they were fighting towards setting you up for your future. And so that encompasses land. That was the American dream from the beginning. All of our pride and nationalism was tied to owning land. It was all about land ownership is what sets you up for generations to come. And so when you open the youth up to the history and knowing how important land was, and that we didn't have air conditioners and so we didn't have all of these distractions, land was very important, just the history again. That's how I do it. That's my program.
I want to tell them about the free book that we have on the history of Oklahoma and the black land runs and or blacks participation in it and all of that?
Most definitely. Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma produces Long Road to Liberty. Can't really. Okay. All of Oklahoma's history and culture in one book. And it speaks about the black townships in Oklahoma. This book is free to people at all times. You can get it from me at Derrick, DERRICK at BAF.solutions. But the importance of this book, it talks about how black farmers in Oklahoma by 1905 owned more land than all of the rest of the blacks in America combined, with over 11 million acres valued at $1.5 million. And so Oklahoma definitely is a model. And so these hidden histories that we have that are directly tied to land ownership and the successes that we had as landowners, it's really important. And these are the same very books, the information that I was able to take into the black establishments and give them for free. In return, they supported my tour, and that's how I developed the capital for my tour, again, by spreading the information. And these books were made available by the state for free, and they were just doing a poor job of circulating them. And so by me being big on history, I said, I know that people need this and people desire this. And they call me all the time for them. You can get the books from me completely free, DERRICK at BAF.solutions. And I think we may be able to pay for the postage, the Black Achievement Fund.
Remember.
For members, you better sign up because he saw my face. I was about to say, who paid for that? I was ready.
And that book heavy too. Also, another free resource is the Education for Life Academy, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants African History curriculum that we have complimentary to all Black Achievement Fund members. It's a online curriculum. And we also have classes on like Mound Bayou, the founding of Mound Bayou. We have classes on Black Wall Street, in which we have documentaries. We have teaching guides. We have study guides. There's vocab words. There are quizzes for each of the classes and all of these things, and 100% free of charge. One of the biggest struggles is, I know a lot of people who just don't know where to go for this type of information. So what we're doing with the Black Achievement Fund is trying to have institutions where we have all of this language under one umbrella. We're also building the Blacklist, which is the Black Achievement Fund's Black Business and Nonprofit Directory. And I know every time someone hears that, they start shaking their head, because they know all the directories have, 2 to 3 dozen entries. Half of them, the links don't work. Half of them, the businesses are closed, so on and so forth. But that's not going to be the Black Achievement Fund's directory. The Blacklist is going to be a resource for not just Black businesses, but also Black independent contractors, freelancers, to market themselves on a nationwide Black platform in the same way that a Craigslist exists.
Angie's List.
Or Angie's List exists. Ashley, thank you for that.
Yes.
So we're working on that right now, and all this is free for your membership. So what we're doing is we are developing solutions, and that's why our website is .solutions and not .com, not .org. So we invite all of you guys who want to continue to move forward in the ways that we've been speaking tonight to join the Black Achievement Fund, because you're going to stay in the loop with every single thing that we're doing with the Freedom Georgia Initiative, with the Black Towns Movement, with the Move Black Movement. Our members are going to be the first to have an opportunity to purchase land in Freedom, Georgia, once we make our grand announcement in the next months coming up. There are so many more things that we do with the Black Achievement Fund that we can't talk about right now. But again, we have to stay connected and we can't operate in silos. So one of the things that we would like to do is for every person on this link to provide Shannon with their contact information, and the Black Achievement Fund will list their business or service in our directory, again, free of charge. So that we can begin this process of understanding that there's prosperity in working together as opposed to in being competitors. There's enough money out here for all of us.
Yes, it is. It's lots of money out here, y'all. Don't believe the hype.
We have an interesting question out here, and I feel it's like apart from what we've been talking about, but still obviously in the same vein. And that question is that I have been, friends of mine are investing in land over in Africa. What are your thoughts on this?
Go for it.
Here's the thing. I definitely feel like we should invest everywhere we can invest. I'm not an expert to speak about investing in Africa, but what I want to say is let's start thinking about how can we have Africa invest in us? Because when we look at the Forbes list, them folks in Africa is on the list, honey. So we really need to look at how do we, as a part of the diaspora, demand our brothers and sisters in Africa who claim us and say, yeah, you a part of us. How do them to invest in what we need to build here in America? Because while, yes, we can repatriate and go back to Africa, most of us ain't gone back to Africa because we're not leaving our mama, because our mama ain't moving to Africa. And you can't say move back to Africa because we ain't never been to Africa. So we have to be honest with ourselves and our situation and our circumstances and say, hey, my home is right here in America. I'm an American and I need to be able to invest and attract investments in Black communities. So definitely do it. If you have the means, find an expert, somebody who know, because there's a lot of scamming going on in the world today. But ultimately, look at ways that you can get connected to Africa so we can share the resources and the wealth of Africa. Because right now, China is raping Africa for its natural resources so that they continue to be a world dominating player. And they're marrying their families into African villages and communities to solidify the relationship. And there's a whole lot of stuff going down in Africa that is not going to be beneficial to us here in America and our plight unless we develop real relationships with people there and start taking trips. And with the middle of COVID, I don't know how that's going to work, but definitely look at creating and getting connected to resources in Africa if that's what you desire. But I think that we have a better opportunity to take some of the money that our African brothers and sisters have in the rich resources of Africa to help build up our communities here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. So my dad is actually Nigerian, first generation Nigerian. He's been in the States probably 40 something years. So I had the opportunity when I left New York before I came back to DC to move to Nigeria, and I lived in West Africa for about a year and a half. Actually just got back. I was there in November for about 10 days, helping some family and stuff. So to the question of investing in land in Africa, I would say just do your due diligence and be careful. It is a risky continent, depending on the country that you're in within the motherland. There unfortunately are a lot of scammers out there. Even when I go home, they have signs on buildings, this land is not for sale, this building is not for sale, because oftentimes, like Ashley talked about earlier, in the US, when we have realtors and agents, people will be showing people stuff and trying to sell it to them, and they don't even have the title or the paper to those properties. So definitely be careful, do your research. I think Ghana did a good job last year of the year of the return, where they were welcoming African Americans specifically back to the motherland, particularly for those who do not have any connection to relations that are still living and in Africa. So there was a lot of Black Americans that traveled to Ghana specifically for the first time. So if you're into soca or Afro beats, I think they're having another Afrobeat tour over there. But get involved, do research. I think Travel Noir has done a good job of putting Africa on the map and not making it some jungle with monkeys and tigers and all this crazy stuff that the Europeans used to train our mind to think. And to Ashley's point, there's a lot of wealth out there. When I made that transition from New York, corporate finance, to moving back there, I was actually trying to do exactly what she was talking about. And I was trying to introduce Morgan Stanley to a lot of the wealthy folks over there to either manage their money or bring their money back this way to leverage in Black communities across America. Of course, that didn't work out because of the skepticism and the dollar to naira ratio and all this stuff. But just be careful, be cautious. If you can, not now, maybe 2021 or later when the vaccine comes out or it's more safe, but take a trip there. You got to set your eyes on that. You got to know who you're dealing with. If it's a good friend or close contact of yours, and they're going there, they're managing it, it can be legit, but just do your due diligence because a lot of scamming does happen. And there's a lot of beautiful places in Africa. So it doesn't just have to be what you see on TV. I mean, Tanzania is phenomenal. Angola is nice. South Africa is like New York City. It's very developed. East Africa, you have Eritrea, Ethiopia. West Africa, you have Nigeria and Ghana and all those countries, Niger and the like. So, do your research on Africa and what part of the continent you'd like to visit. And yeah, do book that trip, take that risk, go with some friends, be careful. But yeah, it's a beautiful land. And I want to see more African Americans connecting back to Africa and vice versa. Africans coming and connecting with those American. We all work together. We don't have to work against each other.
I invest anywhere where the money is. Straight up. I tell people all the time, do you know how many people left from all parts of the country to go to the gold rush in California? How do you think they got there? They didn't fly there. They wasn't on, a nice Lincoln Continental going across the continent. It wasn't that way. So a lot of times in order to make money, you have to look outside of your current environment. But it's always, for me, about the numbers and making sure that my eyes are wide open and that I'm not going into something romanticizing an idea. But this is a legitimate business opportunity, and I'm looking at it from all angles and that sort of thing. The other thing that I would say is if I'm going to be investing outside of the country or something like that, it probably wouldn't be my first investment. And the other thing is, like people are saying, make sure that you travel there and you do the due diligence.
More questions here. So there is a question. It says, Arkee, can you speak a little more about collective economics and how the BAF visualizes this, not only to build communities, but to support Black people, Black organizations, scholars, businesses, etc.?
Sure. The Black Achievement Fund has a comprehensive Black economic and community development agenda with 12 program departments that range from health and wellness, real estate development, small business, banking and financial services, manufacturing and transportation, international affairs, special initiatives, membership and volunteer services, so on and so forth. And let me give you an example of how our programs work. All of our programs and services are free or at cost to members. And let's take our health and wellness department, for example. This is how it works. The Black Achievement Fund will be operating dental clinics, health clinics, and all of those things. So let's just take our dental clinics for an example. The Black Achievement Fund buys the building, which is a dental clinic, through our membership dollars. We own it outright. It's a collective asset. The Black Achievement Fund purchases all of the state-of-the-art dental equipment. The Black Achievement Fund pays the salaries of the dentist, dental technician, and any support staff. So when you go into that dental office, why would the Black Achievement Fund need to charge you anything for any service rendered?
They don't.
Exactly. This is a very, very simple model. It's a sustainable model. There are over 50 million Black people in the country, and the Black Achievement Fund is open to anyone who believes in our mission and our guiding principles, regardless of race, political preference, sexuality, any of those things. So we have a huge, everyone is a target of our audience. So at just 10 million, we break $90 million a month. This is a sustainable solution for virtually any problem that we have. Now we have the capital and we have the organizational structure with the experts in place being paid a salary to remediate whatever those problems are, to problem solve whatever the issues are, because at the end of the day, I don't care what you want to do individually. I don't care what we want to do collectively. We need a budget. You know, like if you come to talk to me about anything, the first thing I'm gonna ask you is, what is the budget? Where is it coming from? If you can't tell me that, I'm like, what are we sitting here talking about? You know, so this is a way for us to establish an economic platform, the organizational structure in a way that doesn't burden any of us. You know, all of us have the opportunity through this model to become agents of our own personal economic liberation, but also the future of our race in a way that does not force us to beg somebody else, force us into the streets for civil disobedience and all of those things. Every single thing that we talk about through the Black Achievement Fund is a bona fide solution. Every single thing that we talk about through the Black Achievement Fund, we can achieve with Black dollars, with Black resources, with Black talent. We don't need one corporation. We don't need one celebrity. We don't need one foundation. We don't need any capital from anyone. And right now we're showing and proving our model just through 1,000 members that we have every single month. You know, we're recycling this wealth back to Black people in all sorts of manners. Every single month now, we're giving scholarships to Black people to fulfill their dreams, to become more educated, to have a higher level of personal satisfaction with their lives. So these are the things that we're accomplishing, and it is a bona fide solution. It's a sustainable solution, and we can have 10 million people overnight. It's all about consciousness because we have the channels to do it. You know, overnight, 10 million people knew about this. They can go and hit $9, and when we woke up the next morning, it'll be $90 million in a bank account. If we just threw a party in every state and just celebrated being Black and Black culture, that beats what we had the day before, right? And this is no cost to anyone. So again, I just implore all of you to not look at this like this is Arkee, Derek, and Ashley's thing, but this is our thing. This is our leadership establishment's model and solution to carry forward. And we just invite all of you guys to come aboard, not just as members, but as part of the leadership team in the states where you are, to help us develop campaign branches, to help us develop the blacklist, and all the other things. So we need to stay plugged. That's the number one thing. So join us so that we can stay plugged. We're not running off anywhere. We're going to be right here to support whatever endeavor it is that you're doing. And, you know, that's how we grow.
It's the Black tax, okay? Y'all paying taxes. Y'all paying Netflix tax. Y'all paying Hulu tax. Y'all paying COVID sitting in the house tax. Pay the Black tax. It's $9 a month. And by the time we get 10 million people paying a Black tax, we can be a Black government. This is what nation building looks like. If we want to be able to fund Alex to buy back the rest of the blocks in Baltimore, we can then do that. He don't ever have to go shaking the can at another institution when we can say, Alex, we got $90 million in the bank. Let's run it. Right. And that's what we need to be able to do. And we can do that for ourselves when we support the Black tax. That's it. Pay your Black tax. $9 a month.
Yeah.
You heard it. I think if you're not listening, please turn up your volume. If you can't hear Ashley, even if she's muted, like you can see it in her face, okay? Ladies, gentlemen, friends, family, we are wrapping up here. And before I just wrap it, shut it down, Is there, I mean, Ashley said it all. Is there anything that we're missing, Alex? Is there anything that we're missing, Derek, Ashley, Arkee? Anything that you need to say, get off your chest, let these people know the last thing they're going to leave, they're going to go home. They're going to, or maybe you're already home, but we're going to sit and we're thinking about what we can do and all the things we've learned. What are the things that we need ringing in our minds right now?
It's up to you all. It's up to you all. You got to be intentional, like I said. I think the Black Achievement Fund has made their case. I think that's a phenomenal organization. Hell, I'm excited to work with them. Ashley, you better call me, in a month, 2 months, be like, Negro, don't go to the bank. We got you, play it. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm going to get my tax. I think what we can do, the 22 of us left on the call, spread the word, because this is viable, very possible. We have to believe, we have to participate, and we have to be intentional. We have to bank Black, we have to buy Black, we have to invest with the Black Achievement Fund and work together. So I'm excited. Again, thank you for having me. I do want to connect with all three of you guys, so I'll be reaching out. But I just want to say, be intentional. Let's get it done.
The Black towns, they are the example. Okay, the Black towns are the example. These Black towns of Oklahoma, they are rural communities. All right, they're not glorious towns like they were in their heyday. You know what I mean? And so, for instance, my hometown, Tatum's, our population is less than 200 people, but we're just 2 hours north of Dallas. And so move Black. You know what I mean? Get the information, come visit, join the tour, 13blacktowns.tour.com. I am a member as well as the campaign manager for the Black Achievement Fund, Way from Oklahoma. It does not matter where you're at. You can do this wherever you are, as long as you have the same mindset and we're working towards the same mission. If we are not able to unify, at least we can be uniform and be working towards the same mission by putting our $9 into the Black Achievement Fund and being part of the solution.
I just want to say, enjoy being Black. Don't let nobody make you think that being Black ain't where it's at, because that's the whole point of all of the hatred against us, is that there's a level of envy and against Black people that is phenomenal. That's what drives this level of hate. So be proud of who you are. Love Black people, and don't discourage anyone about moving to a Black community and all of those types of things. I was showing Derek a house in Lithonia, 14,000 square feet for less than $900,000. And the house was immaculately built. And the whole point in terms of how our communities are devalued, you got Black people living in 14,000 square foot immaculate homes in Black communities, where it would cost double or triple that in a white community. So there are so many ways in which we benefit in ways that we think are just a problem. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you have to have a different perspective in how you look at a situation. So that's about it, I have to say.
I would like to leave you all with the idea that the sky is not the limit, and we don't exist as Black people in a monolith. We are diverse. We don't have to just buy the block in urban cities. We don't just have to buy rural land and build new communities. We can do it all, and we should diversify how we build these types of communities strategically, because when we have thriving Black communities in rural areas all over the country, in urban areas all over the country, then we have a network of strong, solid Black economic independence, where we can support one another, where we can begin to demand the change that we deserve. And we shouldn't just focus on any one project. Go build your own project. That was the one thing that I would love to share with people. Like, everybody wants to move to freedom now, which is great, but you can build freedom for you, yourself, your family, in the neighborhood, in the neighborhood near you. So really take your power back and understand that you have the power to go out and do mighty things, and you can do what you want. That's what real freedom is. You don't have to do it the way that Alex is doing it. You don't have to do it the way that Ashley and Renee and the Freedom Georgia Initiative is doing it. You don't have to do it the way that Arkee does it. You don't have to do it the way that Derek's doing it with the Black Towns. You can find your niche and your unique proposition for how you want to build your community the way that it feels good, that feels right, and that works for you in your circumstances and your situation. But start where you are, and let's make excellence versus excuses.
I like that.
Let's make excellence versus excuses. Friends and family, this has been Alex and Derek and Arkee and Ashley, the Move Black Communities. Oh my goodness, what are we even doing right now? I'm like very excited and I can't deal with it. This has been Move Black, a discussion about Black communities and land ownership as a means to economic power. If you do not feel empowered right now, you weren't here. I don't know where you were. So this is what we're gonna do. We are going to go back to the campgrounds so that you have a chance to talk to Alex and Arkee and Derek and Ashley. The thing about it is that this whole thing has been brought to you by the Pieces Collective. Ikrama Muhammad is the owner of the Pieces Collective. And Ikrama, if you are around, I would love for you to come up and just share a little bit about the Pieces Collective and what it does to bring these types of events together. Or we can wait until we are back on the floor plan. Ah, Ikrama,
yeah, Brown.
Say that again. Oh,
I was lost, but anyway, I'm back, and thank you all so much. It was so powerful, and I hope that this is the first of many conversations that we will have. We may have had some people who weren't able to get in. So the 25 people that were here were truly blessed. And we thank them for coming. We thank you for spending your time. I wanted just to, what I got from this is, land. You know, there is no freedom without land.
Mm-hmm.
There's not. There is no education without land. Everything that we get to sustain ourselves physically, mentally, and spiritually comes from the land. So that's really important. But I hope, you know, we'll come back again and we'll talk about what it takes to build communities, because the title is Black Communities and Land Ownership. So those are, you know, they're the same, but they're two different things. I might not have $600,000 to get a brownstone in Bedford-Stuy, but, you know, making communities, it doesn't take money to build community. So we thank God for you all who are out there developing, leading on that front end, and we want to continue to work and engage with you. Rhonda had a question. I don't know if Rhonda's still here, but she wanted to talk about building neighborhoods and stores and restaurants and all the things I think Ashley mentioned, the things that go into building community once you have the land. And that's what, at the Pieces Collective, you know, our goal is. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we support makers, and they give a portion of their profits to holding workshops like this. This is one of the things we do to give back to the community. But we also have a resident maker program where we're teaching and developing a curriculum so that we can understand what it takes to really build businesses and communities and serve, so that we're ready for when we have this land in these towns to go in and help establish retail that is for the people. So if you'd like to support us, you can go to thepiecescollective.org and make a purchase, and a portion of that purchase will go toward developing more programs like this. You can also make a donation. We're a 501c3 tax deductible organization, You can volunteer if you have a service or something you think can help us, or you can do all three, and we would greatly appreciate it. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. I think we were well fed tonight. I know we went a little bit over, but I hope if there are people who are still here and you all have time to kind of visit with them and chat with them, we really appreciate it. And join the BAF. I am a member.
You didn't mention, you are eligible, your organization is eligible for a grant. It's that simple.
Okay.
And it's not even a complicated application. It's a one-page application with like 10 questions. We don't make it hard.
I think we might be able to handle that.
All right. This way, all of us collectively are given to Pieces Collective. So this is the motto at work.
Excellent. So I hope we can do this again. I know Alex has two beautiful twins that he might have to get back to, but if he can stick around and if there are people at the table that want to ask questions, let's do it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Thank you. We are, if just like Ikrama said, Alex and Arkee and Ashley and Derek, Ikrama herself, will be for as long as they can at tables. If you would like to chit chat with them, please do so. Thank you so much, Yinka, for all the things you're doing behind the scenes. If you're ready, we're ready to go back to the campgrounds. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Peace.